Hello, everybody. This is Mr. Storm, and in this video, we are going to talk about how to communicate properly with people in your workplace. Whether you like them or not, you need to learn how to communicate properly with individuals that you work with. And if you don't communicate effectively, then you could be, there could be dire consequences. So let's talk about how to do this the right way so that we can be functional adults out in the workplace. Um, so to better communicate with your coworkers, you must master the following concepts. Okay, you must know how to, you must understand body language. You must know how to hold a conversation. You must know how to resolve conflict with another coworker. You must know how to communicate with people over email and instant messaging applications, and you must have some level of phone etiquette. You must understand how to use the phone properly. So we're going to talk about each one of these as we go. First thing is body language. So, have you ever talked to somebody and it just seemed off, right? It was just a weird conversation. I mean, they might have said all the right things, they sounded smart, they might have been interesting, but they just felt weird, right? Well, chances are you're picking up on their body language. They may have had awkward or inappropriate body language that just kind of made you feel a little skeeved out or feel like they weren't a part of the conversation like they should have been, right? Body language is huge because it's not something that we actively pay attention to all the time, but it's something that we're always like for ourselves, right? We're not really always thinking about our body language, but we are always looking at the body language of other people, and we are taking that into account when we're having conversations with them. You know, Body language is one of the ways we determine whether or not what we're saying is making sense to the other person, whether they're getting angry, whether they're interested, whether they're actually listening. And so we need to pay attention to how we communicate using our own body language so that we don't turn off the conversation inappropriately, right? So we need to look at posture, expression, eye contact, and personal space. Your posture, you should have your back straight, your shoulders back. You should be facing the person you're talking to. You should look like you're proud and you're involved. If you're slumped over, if you're propping your head up on your hands, if you're, kind of not looking at or you're not facing the person, then it's just not going to come off well, right? They're going to think you're uninterested, you're bored, you're tired, whatever. Your expression, right? Make sure the expression on your face reflects what the emotion calls for in the situation. I know it sounds like I'm an alien trying to teach other aliens how to be human, but really think about it. I mean, how many times have you had a conversation where, the emotions that you felt inside are different from the emotional tone of the conversation you're having? That inside emotion can sometimes be reflected in our expression, and it may make the conversation weird or stilted, right? There's an appropriate emotion for the conversation you're having. Figure out what that is and express that emotion on your face. Usually, when in a business context, that emotion is, I'm happy to be here, I'm happy to talk to you. I respect your opinion and I'm listening intently because you have something to say that's important, right? So, smiling, nodding your head, that kind of stuff. Eye contact. Okay, eye contact is tricky because it's very important. First of all, it's very important to have good eye contact. But if you maintain eye contact for too long, it could be a little creepy, right? You could skeeve people out. You definitely don't want to look in their eyes all the whole time and just kind of like you're trying to dig into their soul, right? Eye contact is just, find a good level of appropriate eye contact. You don't want to avert your gaze when they look at you like you're a shy, muskrat. You want to actually look at them and look in their eyes when they're speaking, but not for too long. Personal space is another one that's kind of hard to define exactly what the appropriate personal space is. Me, generally, I like to maintain about 4 feet of personal space, right? Everyone has you know, their own feel, their own level of personal space. If someone gets closer than 4 feet to me, usually it's not, I'm a little weirded out by it. And so I try to stay at least 4 feet away from people if I'm having a conversation. There are people who are close talkers. They feel a lot more comfortable being very close to you and talking to you very close. With those people, if you feel uncomfortable, if they're getting too close to you, you can just say, hey, you know what? I really am enjoying this conversation, but could you mind, stepping back just a little bit? I have personal space issues. You know, make it your problem, not theirs, right? Um, so here are some do's and don'ts for body language. We've covered a lot of these so far, but you know, again, don't slouch, don't cross your arms. When you cross your arms when you're talking with someone, it kind of sends the signal that you're closed off and you're not really engaged in what they're saying. It also can be a little bit combative because crossing your arms is a defensive posture. And if you're defensive, then that means you're ready for battle, right? And so you don't want to be defensive. You don't want to cross your arms. Don't put your hands in your pockets. Putting your hands in your pockets is a very unprofessional thing to do. I know it feels natural, and a lot of us do it just without thinking. Um, but it is unprofessional. And in a business context, you don't want to walk around with your hands in your pockets all day. And especially if you're talking with someone important, do not put your hands in your pockets while you're talking. Don't avoid eye contact, like I said before, but don't stare for too long either. Probably 4 to 5 seconds is pretty good. But don't like, all right, look in their eyes. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Look away. All right. Look in their eyes. 1, 2, 3. Like, don't make it systematic or obvious. Just practice this as you have conversations with people. Just practice it. You'll get better at it. Um, don't stand too close. I put 4 feet because that's my personal thing. But, you know, we have this weird sense about us whenever we're talking with somebody and we feel that it's too close. Like I don't know, our spidey sense starts tingling. If you start feeling that, then you probably need to back up a little bit. So, just be present in the conversation and try to figure out what's going on. Um, so you do want to stand up straight with your shoulders back. Like I said before, you want to be open and proud to be there, happy to be there. You do want to shake hands when you're greeting someone. Okay, shake their hand, smile, shake hands, eye contact. Okay, nod along with the conversation when you're talking with someone. Nod. Okay, that indicates that you're listening and you're paying attention. Um, and again, face the person you're talking to, right? If your body is angled away from them, then that means, that tells them that you don't think they're important enough to pay attention to. So definitely face the person. All right, let's talk about conversations. Being able to have a productive conversation is super critical in business. All right, it's also really critical in your personal life. But you need to understand how to have a conversation properly. Some people have bad habits in conversations that can really, sour their relationships. Um, Conversations are an exchange of information where you're both getting information from the other, from each other, and it's not a monologue. It's not a one-sided thing, right? If you find yourself talking too much in the conversation, you probably are talking, you're probably overpowering what that person wants to say, right? So here are a couple steps to follow to increase your conversational skills. And again, these are things you can practice with your friends and family. Number one, focus on the person who's talking, right? If they are talking, if they have the floor, think about what they're saying, listen, focus on them, okay? Especially if you're in a group of friends or a group of people. Turn toward that person, look at them, maintain, give them eye contact. Even if they're not making eye contact with you, look in their eyes. Think about what they're saying. Instead of just trying to come up with a funny thing to say next when it's your turn, think about what they're saying. Okay. Number two, ask relevant questions and don't interrupt them, right? When it's your turn to talk, ask relevant questions to follow up on what they've said. Give people the chance to express themselves further if they want to take it. But asking relevant questions means that you've been paying attention, you've been listening to what they say, and you actually care about what they're saying, right? And again, do not interrupt them. It's critical that you let people speak their piece. Don't interrupt. When you interrupt, what it says to them is, I don't care what you're saying right now. I don't care what you're talking about. What I have to say is more important. And that's rude, right? You don't want to be rude. Number three, slow down. Okay, if you're a fast talker, your listener might lose you and become disengaged from the conversation, right? This was a problem I had when I was younger. I was a very fast talker. I'd get excited about an idea and I'd start talking really fast and I couldn't stop talking really fast and I would just keep going and going and I would lose people, right? So now I've kind of trained myself to slow down and really think about what I'm saying, right? Being present in the moment and making sure I'm picking the right words, making sure that I'm engaged in what they're saying and what they're doing, and really trying to make sure that what I say is what I meant to say. And number four, get to the point. Okay, we don't need your life story every time you have a conversation. If you're trying to say something specific, say that thing, right? If you need to give some context, great, give that context, then say your thing. All right. Um, Number five, admit when you've made a mistake, right? Sometimes we just say the wrong thing. Sometimes you say something you didn't mean. Sometimes you say something that wasn't true. Sometimes, you say something and it hurts someone's feelings or offends them in some way. It is okay for you to be offended in a conversation, by the way, and say, hey, that's actually kind of offensive. I would appreciate it. Offense is okay. There's this attitude now where anytime anyone gets offended, they've lost or they're too sensitive or whatever. And that's just not true, right? Offense is one way that we can kind of gauge whether or not we have the right moral attitudes about things. And if someone says something that is offensive, it's your right and probably your responsibility to tell them, hey, that's actually offensive. I'd appreciate it if you wouldn't say that around me. Um, but if you do offend someone, you know, it's not their fault, right? It's your fault because you said something offensive. Admit it. Admit when you've made a mistake. I apologize. I did not mean it that way. Thank you very much for helping me to, whatever you have to do, but don't get defensive when someone else is offended, right? So, what happens if you do say something appropriate or inappropriate, and now the person's mad at you, right? I've been there before. I find myself in that position often. Well, not often, but sometimes. You know what I mean? Um, I've said things that are offensive to people, and I've said things that are incorrect or inappropriate, and I'm sure you have too. I mean, everyone does, right? Um, and just remember, when this happens, the sooner that the conflict is resolved, the better it is for everybody, right? Especially in a business context. If you say something that stops the conversation in its tracks, you need to get the conversation moving again in a positive direction as quickly as possible, right? So when this happens, here are some things you need to do. First of all, you need to breathe, right? Whenever we say something, whenever we make a mistake, um, we tend to go on the defensive and start being angry. We start getting angry because if it's someone else's fault, then it's not my fault, and I'm not at fault, and I'm not in trouble, and I'm not a bad person, right? But if you made the mistake, breathe, don't be angry, calm yourself down, okay? Come to grips with the fact that you just said something incredibly or monumentally stupid and calm yourself. All right? It's probably embarrassing. You're probably defensive. Don't be. Breathe. Calm down. Okay? The second thing you want to do is listen to the other person, right? Give them your undivided attention. Let them tell you what you did wrong, right? Um, do not interrupt them. Don't defend yourself. Do not respond until after they've finished talking, until they've finished completely giving you the business. And sometimes people will get into this mode where, you know, they start telling you what you did was wrong and they keep piling on and piling on and piling on. And they realize in the process that, you know what, I'm sorry. I'm not even really that mad. I apologize. That was, you know, it was, you said something stupid, but it's not that big of a deal. Sometimes they'll calm themselves down. And number three, respond. When it's time for you to respond, respond calmly and rationally. Acknowledge their feelings, apologize for your mistake. That's huge. A lot of people forget to apologize for some reason. Apologize. You did something wrong, you apologize. And acknowledge that they have a right to feel the way they do, right? Focus on the facts though, not the emotions. Don't bring emotions into it, okay? And please, whatever you do, do not tell the other person to calm down. If you've ever been angry and someone tells you to calm down, it does the exact opposite of what they wanted, right? You don't calm down when someone tells you to calm down. So they're not going to calm down. Just breathe. As long as you stay calm and you apologize and you acknowledge that they're right to feel the way they feel, everything will be just fine. All right. So what about email and instant messaging? So instead of talking face to face, sometimes we may actually communicate online, right? So sending electronic messages, it saves time, it's efficient, but if you do it wrong, there could be problems. Okay, so um, remember, this is a business context, right? This whole class takes place in a business context. So I'm not talking about sending messages to your friends on Instagram or sending them text messages or um, leaving Facebook posts or Twitter or whatever. I'm not talking about that kind of stuff. That's unprofessional communication. That's that with their the way you communicate in those contexts is really strictly dictated by the situation itself, right? But in a business and a professional business conversation, here are some things you want to do, right? Number one, just because you can send it doesn't mean you should, right? Um, Electronic messages should be brief and to the point. They should be concise. I do not need your entire life story. And please be careful with the reply all button on an email, right? Many businesses or many workplaces, they'll send out a an email that's for everyone. And inevitably there's always one person in every office. There's one teacher at the school who does it. But there's always one person in every office that will reply all to that email with something that doesn't really add to the conversation, right? Some personal anecdote or just oh, okay, thanks boss, and they'll reply all, and then everyone gets that email again, and it's a problem. Look, this is supposed to make our lives easier, not more complicated. All right, just because you can send it doesn't mean you should send emails if it's an appropriate email to send, right? You should send the message if it's appropriate, keep it brief. And number two, use professional writing, right? Yes, even in instant messaging applications, capitalize your words that you need to capitalize. Spell your words properly. Use proper grammar. Punctuate. Okay, this is professional communication, right? You should never type LOL in a professional business context. All right, I should never get an email from a coworker with misspelled words or no punctuation or whatever. This is professional, all right? So be professional. All right, telephone etiquette, all right? Did you know that your phone can actually be used to make phone calls, right? It's not just for reading angry tweets and checking Instagram, right? You can actually use your phone to call people. And sometimes you're going to actually use your phone to talk to people in a business context. Um, so I've this is just personal anecdote. This is not an actual scientific study, but I feel like um, we're becoming more and more averse to using the phone to make calls. And I think there's a lot of call anxiety people have when they're, I need a call to make a doctor's appointment, or I need to, call my boss, or I need to call this person, that person. There is some anxiety that can come with making phone calls, right? Here's some tips to make sure you use the phone properly. Number one, don't forget a greeting, right? Greet people just like you're having a conversation face to face. Greet people. A pleasant greeting will start the conversation off on a good note. And don't forget to smile, okay? Yes, you're on the phone, they can't see you smile. I get it. I'm not an idiot. But if you smile while you're talking, that actually leaks into your voice and you can tell the other person is smiling while they're talking, okay? Number 2, keep a natural and sincere tone of voice, right? Don't become a robot on the phone. Just speak to them naturally, like you would if you were having a conversation with them face to face. Um, I call this telemarketer voice, right? Every time you get those telemarketing calls, you can tell right away it's not a friend of yours or it's not somebody who's calling just to chat because hello, sir, my name is Miss, and they go into that telemarketer voice, that super ultra professional voice. Don't do that, right? It turns people off. Don't talk too fast. Again, just like I said before, Don't talk too fast, breathe, slow down, especially over the phone because it can be hard to hear sometimes and people are going to lose parts of your conversation and they're not going to want to interject and tell you, "Hey, stop. What I didn't get what you said," right? But if that does happen, if you can't understand someone, you can always say, "Sorry, could you say that again?" Right? In a conversation face to face, usually that means, "Hey, I wasn't listening to you as well as I should have." But on the phone, it's actually not rude to say that, right? Because we have technology between the two of us, and there may have been I might have dropped part of the call or whatever. So it's not rude to ask people to repeat themselves on the phone. So don't be afraid to do it. You want the information they're giving you, right? And getting that information is more important than making them feel, than not making them feel awkward. Um, Anywho, alrighty. So in conclusion, um, look, the general rule for professional communication is just to pretend that you like everybody, even if you don't like them. Pretend, right? Um, if I don't like you in a professional context, if I have a coworker that I just don't like, they will never know, right? I will pretend to like them. Every conversation I have with them is going to be professional and cordial and courteous and kind. Every time I communicate with them, it's going to be the same, over internet or instant messenger or whatever. you know, Never let people know that you don't like them because your job is not to have personal feelings about the people you work with. Your job is to be professional and courteous and kind with everyone, no matter who you like, right? Treat everyone as if they deserve respect, even if you don't think they do. Even if, oh, I know that guy. That guy doesn't deserve any respect from me whatsoever. Guess what? They do because they're a human being. You may not like that person, you may not get along with that person very well, but they deserve your respect, especially in a professional conversation or in a professional context, because it's not about personal feelings, right? It's about doing things effectively and efficiently to sell more products or provide more services to customers. Remember, everybody you work with, their main concern is just getting through the day and doing the best they can, right? Don't take things personally. Leave the personal drama for your social life, not for your business life, all right? Okay, well, that's it for me. I am going to cut this video here. Please have fun with the material this week. And again, go through the online references that I'm giving you so you can learn more. The assignment this week is fun. It's one of my personal favorites. So enjoy the assignment, please. Okay. If you're not liking this class, if you're not enjoying this class, let me know. Let me know what I can do to improve it. But there are some really fun things coming up. I promise next term we're doing some awesome stuff. So I'm going to leave it there. Thank you for paying attention, and I will see you next time.